Welcome to the Inspirational Living podcast, brought to you by the kind financial support of listeners like you. To learn how you can become a patron, please visit livinghour.org/patron. Thank you. Today's reading was edited and adapted from the works of C.S. Lewis. A children's story that can only be enjoyed by children is not a good children's story in the slightest. No book is really worth reading at the age of 10, which is not equally, and often far more, worth reading at the age of 50 and beyond. Someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. We all want progress, but if you're on the wrong road, progress means doing an about turn and walking back to the right road. In that case, the person who turns back soonest is the most progressive. Free will, though it makes evil possible, is also the only thing that makes possible any love or goodness or joy worth having. Education without values, as useful as it is, seems rather to make a person a more clever devil. The task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. Even in literature and art, no person who bothers about originality will ever be original, whereas if you simply try to tell the truth, without caring a whit how often it has been told before, you will, 9 times out of 10, become original without ever having noticed it. If we find ourselves with a desire that nothing in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that we were made for another world. What you see and what you hear depends a great deal on where you are standing. It also depends on what sort of person you are. To love it all is to be vulnerable. Love anything and your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the coffin of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable, impenetrable, irredeemable. If you love deeply, you're going to get hurt badly, but it's still worth it. God allows us to experience the low points of life in order to teach us lessons that we could learn in no other way. Pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks to us in our consciences, but shouts to us in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. If you look for truth, you may find comfort in the end. However, if you look for comfort, you will find neither comfort nor truth, but only soft soap and wishful thinking to begin, and in the end, despair. I sometimes wonder whether all pleasures are not substitutes for joy. Reality is not neat, not obvious, not what you expect. You never know how much you really believe anything until its truth or falsehood becomes a matter of life and death to you. Love is something more stern and splendid than mere kindness. Love is not even an affectionate feeling, but a steady wish for the loved person's ultimate good, as far as it can be obtained. Nothing you have not given away will ever really be yours. Atheism turns out to be too simple. If the whole universe has no meaning, we should never have found out that it has no meaning. A young person who wishes to remain a sound atheist cannot be too careful of their reading. Do you want to be a writer? Then write about what really interests you, whether it is real things or imaginary things, and nothing else. We meet no ordinary people in our lives. The sweetest thing in all my life has been the longing to reach the mountain, to find the place where all the beauty came from, my country, the place where I ought to have been born. Do you think it all meant nothing? All that longing? The longing for home? For indeed it now feels not like a going, but like a return. There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. Miracles are a retelling in small letters of that very same story, which is written across the whole world in letters too large for some of us to see. Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild the house. At first, perhaps you can understand what he is doing. He is getting the drains right and stopping the leaks in the roof and so on. You knew that those jobs needed doing, and so you are not surprised. But soon enough, he starts knocking the house about in a way that pains you and does not seem to make any sense. What on earth is he up to? The explanation is that he is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. Throwing out a new wing here, putting on an extra floor there, running up towers, making courtyards. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself. The safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. The long, dull, monotonous years of middle-aged prosperity or middle-aged adversity are excellent campaigning weather for the devil. Aim at heaven and you will get earth thrown in. Aim at earth and you get neither. It may be hard for an egg to turn into a bird, but it would be a jolly lot harder for it to learn to fly while remaining an egg. We are all like eggs at present, and you cannot go on indefinitely being just an ordinary, decent egg. We must be hatched or go bad. Do not dare not to dare. Failures, repeated failures, are finger posts on the road to achievement. One fails forward towards success. We are not living in a world where all roads are radiuses of a circle, and where all, if followed long enough, will therefore draw gradually nearer and finally meet at the center. Rather, we are living in a world where every road, after a few miles, forks into two, and each of those into two again, and at each fork you must make a decision. Reason is the natural order of truth, but imagination is the creator of meaning. We are what we believe we are. The Inspirational Living Podcast is a production of The Living Hour. Get your very own exclusive podcast feed with full transcripts delivered right to your smartphone by becoming our patron today. Learn more by visiting livinghour.org/patron. Thanks for listening. I look forward to talking with you next time.